Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
What do you say we bring on Tim Watts to kind of give us some insight as to what's going on over there in Tuscaloosa with their number 2 ranked class in the country? Tim, happy National Signing Day. What can you tell us about this class?
Yeah, it was a good one. It was an excellent one. I mean, you were battling Georgia, who was really on fire. Alabama had, I tell you what I was impressed with. They had a tremendous class last year at every level. And to turn around and do the same thing this year, I mean, Georgia had a great class, obviously. But to come in and land the guys they did, obviously a little bit of curveball when Nick Saban retired and you lost Jameer Grimsley and Julian Sayin.
Mm-hmm.
So they lost a couple of those guys. But they also brought in Noah Carter, who's just signed here recently, I believe. And I'm a huge fan of him. I think this is a guy, when you look at kind of the evaluation skills of the Washington coaching staff, I think Noah Carter is a guy that you can sort of check a box and say, hey, they know what they're doing, because this guy was a big riser his senior year. Very athletic, can run, very physical, very violent, played 2 positions just as good at tight end probably as defensive end. But, I mean, he's one of those guys, sick him. He'll run get the quarterback for you.
I love that. Sick him and go get the quarterback for you.
Hey, Tim, we were talking earlier about the rarity of a decommitment into a recommitment with Ryan Williams. What do you make of that scenario? Because it looked to me, he was flirting with Auburn quite a bit, and it looked like when Saban retired, that was his excuse out of the class. That was the easy way out. But Ryan Williams ends up recommitting. Do you credit that to Kalin DeBoer, or is that just loyalty on Ryan Williams' side?
I think it was much ado about nothing with Ryan's attention to any other school. He never at any point, look, I've said this a lot. He tried to tell us where he was going. He tried to tell us where his heart was. He said it over and over and over. We cover recruiting, though. Usually when they're telling us something, we're like, that don't sound right.
We're jaded.
Yeah, he's making it too easy. Ryan tried to tell us for months. Again, Kalin DeBoer's hired on a Friday, 8:30 p.m. He arrives in Tuscaloosa. Monday, BOL broke the news on the round table that he was in Tuscaloosa hanging out with Jalen Mbakwe, and he didn't just recommit. I mean, this was done within a week, basically.
Right.
I mean, he took the visit and he announced it a little after, but you could see how happy he was meeting with that staff and felt at home and, everything about it. But again, Ryan Williams, I mean, there can be a lot of, he took a visit to see this or he took a visit and all that, but he told us, go back and look what he said since the day he committed. Alabama's my heart. Alabama's where I want to be. He told us 1,000 times. It was just hard for us to hear it.
So has he signed today?
He's supposed to be signing right at 10, so it could have happened now. He could have sent it in this morning. We're not expecting any drama there. I mean, he didn't take visits. I was expecting a whole different, regardless of how this turned out, I was expecting, because you remember he was supposed to commit on the 9th. His birthday, which is on Friday. So we were expecting this to go a little bit longer, certainly not wrap it up, don't take visits and all that kind of stuff. So
he was supposed to be at Auburn 3 days before signing day.
Yeah, this past weekend, who calls last? I mean, I think that was what had Auburn's hope. So, there's that saying, you either want to be first or last, right? First isn't bad, because if you're good, you spend enough game, you can do it right, you can wrap it up. And I feel like, that helped a lot. Obviously, losing Nick Saban is not a plus in any situation. But I do think that you have to give credit to the support staff at Alabama. I mean, we don't talk about those guys a lot because it was always Saban, and the big-name recruiter that year who did a terrific job. We always focused on those guys. But that support staff, and you saw that when Kalin DeBoer was hired, the assistant coaches he hired was working out what they had to do, where they could recruit for Alabama. But you saw former players, Josh Chapman, Denzel Ward, Clinton Dix. You saw them out on the road. Plus, there was some continuation with a guy like Freddie Roach and Robert Gillespie and Bob Welton also. So it wasn't long. They didn't lose everybody, but it did a good. And he said it feels like home. And I think committing that quick to Kalin DeBoer said, yeah, it did feel like home.
And, Tim, I think the question that a lot of people have as soon as Kalin DeBoer was hired was, okay, he's a great coach. How is he going to be as a recruiter? Well, we've seen him now land the recommitment of Ryan Williams, then also be able to keep a lot of these early enrollees outside of Julian Sayin and Jameer Grimsley in Tuscaloosa. What can you tell us about Kalin DeBoer and kind of how he's being perceived by this 2024 class and some of the guys that are already on campus?
He's had success. I'll tell you the one thing I like is their evaluation skills. You can see some of the guys they brought in and they recruited. And, I mean, it's not the same, it's not apples for apples, but they also brought in Austin Mack, who would have been in this class, a quarterback when Julian Sayin left. They actually brought in Austin first. A big 6'6" guy that can sling it. A lot of people were very positive about him. Again, you go back to Noah Carter. I mean, recruiting is about relationships. Can you build it? Can you sing it? Can you get those guys to understand you? And the feedback early on Kalin DeBoer has been fantastic. I understand it's not an all Southern staff, but there's enough Southern staff to get their foot in the door. I mean, Kane Womack was the head coach at South Alabama, so he's got in-state connections. You kept in-state connections with Freddie Roach. Robert Gillespie has a big part of Florida, so you have those. Plus guys that are known recruiters, and it's not like Alabama's not a national brand. They're still going to recruit Texas. And if you look at their first junior day, which they had this past weekend, they had guys coming from California. They had the number one player in the 2026 class, Jakeem Stewart from Louisiana came in. Jordan Young, the number one athlete in the country from 2025, he came in. So I feel like they've laid the groundwork to do a really good job.
I had a question on that junior day, Tim. There's a couple junior days every cycle, so you've probably covered a good 50 or 60 of them under Nick Saban. So how did this one feel? I mean, did it feel kind of alien, or was it still like, hey, Bama's Bama, and we're going to just keep this thing rolling?
The feedback's what I go off of. For me, it's strange. I mean, I went as far as my career, I went through like 5 coaches, in a very short window, starting with DeBoer, going through Shula. I lost a coach on the way to AAU tournament once when Mike Price got fired, where I was still covering basketball for Shannon Terry. So I've seen a lot. So then you get 17 years of stability at a very high level, the highest level you can get. So for me, it's always going to be a change. Now, the junior day, I thought they did a terrific job. If you look at the guys that were on campus, if you look at the guys they brought in, it had that same feeling. And I do know the one thing is that Nick Saban did. He definitely left it better than he found it. There wasn't a lot to change to host a visitor, right? I mean, when Kalin DeBoer showed up, Nick Saban had everything laid out. It's like moving in a fully furnished house. He was able to walk in and just be himself, which had to be a huge relief. And that's not how Nick Saban arrived. It had to be fixed and adjusted and moved to what it is now.
Well, Tim, we appreciate you making some time for us here as the kind of the hay gets put in the barn here on this top 2 class for the 2024 cycle. Appreciate you making some time.
I appreciate it, guys. Anytime for you too.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.